So, Nintendo is not selling the 3DS XL model anymore in Japan, actually. And this is very big news in terms of the handheld market. The corporation has announced, as part of its plan to focus the market on its next handheld. Are you fucking joking me, Nintendo? Oh my god. This is the problem with a company like Nintendo. It's just pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. The new Nintendo 3DS XL, which boasts upgraded technology and a right-hand analog nub, launched in Japan on October 11 and shifted 230,000 units in its first 2 days. Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my god! How many new updated models is the 3DS gonna get? The new Nintendo 3DS XL. Ugh, then what the hell is the point if you own the original 3DS XL? It appears that the actual first 3DS, the very first one, not the XL version, will not be shelved, obviously, because that one sold a lot of units, and it still is selling. How pathetic is this? How pathetic is Nintendo? They are so bent on cashing in on this damn handheld. I mean, the 3DS itself has 5 million different versions, so of course it sold a lot of units, and it sold a lot of models, and especially because of the DS. The DS was very successful. Everybody, from their fucking dog to their grandmother, had a DS. And now, because it's next gen, or not even next gen, but it's current gen, the 3DS kind of replaced it because people got used to the DS, and I don't even know how the fuck it happened. How the hell did this whole Nintendo handheld thing become so big? I mean, sure, in the 90s when I was growing up as a kid, there was the Game Boy. The Game Boy was big, but the Game Boy was kind of the de facto handheld. Not everybody had a Game Gear because it wasn't that popular, for the simple fact that it basically died by the mid-90s. The Game Gear was kind of done, it wasn't exactly a successful, massively over handheld. The Game Gear wasn't... I mean, my god, the Game Boy basically had a bunch of games that were worth checking out. It had Pokemon, it had Mario Land, Donkey Kong Land, and Kirby, all that shit. It was really fun to play, and I don't know, it was kind of like the default handheld of the 90s. There was nobody that could take it. There was no other company that could fuck with Nintendo at that time. And then by the early 2000s, you had the Game Boy Advance, so the GBA, which did pretty good. I'm not sure if it did better than the Game Boy, the original Game Boy. I don't think it did. I think it did okay, but it wasn't exactly like an amazing handheld that you gotta have. It was more like, okay, this is pretty good. It's like a handheld Super Nintendo. A little bit stronger than the Game Boy, but not quite there in terms of like 3D graphics. Obviously, it didn't have that. So I think the GBA was more of a take it or leave it kind of handheld. It was kind of like, it's got a few games here and there. It got, the Metroid, and it's got some Pokemon, third generation Pokemon games, and a few other, RPGs here and there. Maybe an action platformer type of thing. But for the most part, the Game Boy Advance, I think, was just a handheld Super Nintendo. It was just a handheld SNES. And by that time, I mean, we're starting to see other companies try to, make their own systems and make their own handhelds. You got Sony coming out with the PSP by the mid-2000s, and the PSP, I think, is a very solid handheld. And then, but when the DS came out, the fucking DS really fucking crossed over and was able to garner a big support. It was able to so many female following. There was a time, I think, when the DS eventually became like 50% of the consumers of the DS were female gamers. So there's a lot of girls that actually liked the DS. They had pink models of the DS, girly colors, and it catered towards women as well, so the DS was kind of like this, I guess, casual kind of thing. It was casual friendly, it was gamer friendly, it was female friendly. But I always felt like the PSP was a much more superior handheld overall. I prefer the PSP's games a lot more. Obviously better graphics, better visuals, bigger games. You know, it was kind of like if, I mean, the DS was kind of like a handheld Nintendo 64. The PSP was a handheld PlayStation 2. And of course the PS2 is a better, much better system than the you know, the N64 in my opinion, even though the N64 had a few classics, but I think the PS2 just did it better. You know, it has better shooters, it has better fighting games, it has better action games, you know, it has better, even the RPG department, you know, especially the RPG department. So there's a lot of, I mean, and then that can translate with the fucking PSP as well. The PSP, I think, was a better overall handheld, much better, much more enjoyable for me anyway, than the DS. I think the DS is only good for a few games like Pokemon, you know, that's about it. Pokemon was the killer app on the DS, in my opinion. Everything else is just some touchscreen gimmick type of thing. Nintendogs, you know, Max and his Magic Eraser, or whatever the hell that was, and all these other, you know, all these other games on the DS that I just don't even care about. So now we get to the 3DS, and it has like 5 million different models. You know, there's so many different versions of the 3DS. This is the typical cash-in move by Nintendo. You know, typical Nintendo to constantly like repackage their handheld systems over and over and over again, constantly putting out a so-called new version, a new model, and it's just a cash-in. I mean, it really is. It's just a way to get more money out of these pathetic Nintendrones. I cannot stand Nintendrones that always buy this 3DS crap. I mean, it's really not that hype. Get a PS Vita or something, you know, just get a PS Vita. Hell, get a fucking older handheld. Go get a DS, go get a PSP or something. Even a Game Boy Advance. I mean, a 3DS XL. Always buying it, always buying a new one. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, Nintendo's handheld is so lacking. Especially for a mature gamer. I just don't find it impressive, and I wouldn't be surprised if they release another model of the 3DS next year, and 2 years from now in 2016. Just constantly milking the 3DS, constantly making money off of it, constantly doing a so-called upgraded model, even though it's really not that upgraded. There's not much of a big difference. You're just adding slight changes to it, kind of like, you know, the latest iPhone or something. It's just a fucking gimmick with these damn Nintendo followers, you know, and it's just kind of pathetic. Oh my god, the 3DS XL. Oh boy. And the problem is people buy into it. You know, people buy into this nonsense. Damn, aren't you just satisfied with the original 3DS? How do people feel about owning an original 3DS model? Like, do you feel like a fucking idiot or what? Do you feel like a moron for spending that much money on the 3DS when it came out, only for Nintendo to release 700 different models of it, or slightly updated models, or little tweakings here and there, tweaked models of it in the future? I don't know, it just seems so lame, it seems so fucking corny. Nintendo just pisses me off. They're so money grubbing. The 3DS is basically the handheld system version of like a Call of Duty. It's like COD. It comes out every fucking year. It's a copy and paste system. It's a copy and paste release with small little alterations, small little changes that aren't really that significant. That aren't really, I mean, oh my god. I'm so sick of the 3DS. I'm sick of Nintendo and their bullshit. Enough with this. Thanks for watching The Review Space, the most underrated channel on YouTube. For more videos, check out youtube.com/TheReviewSpace.